In CloudCIX, we use the Boole app to create and manage virtual compute resources. In this video, we'll create a project with a router, firewall, Geofilter, and both an LXD and HyperV instance. We'll also look at attaching a GPU and protecting your work with snapshots and backups. Before you begin, make sure you have permission to use Boole and a region in which to build your project. If you plan to connect to an LXD instance, you'll need an SSH key and your public IPv4 address. Let's get started. From the CloudCIX app menu, open Boole. The navigation on the left is split into three sections. Setup is where you create resources, Manage is where you update existing resources, and View gives you information about your projects. Let's create the project or resources we'll live in. To create a new project, expand Setup and select Projects. Then select Create. Give the project a clear name, choose the region where you want to build it, and add notes if needed. Then select Save, and then hit Next. Every project needs a router and at least one network. Boole creates a private network for you by default, and in most cases you can keep the suggested IPv4 range. Only change it if it conflicts with a network you already use. If your project needs a separate network, for example to isolate the application server from a database server, select Add Network, give it a name, and input a non-overlapping private IPv4 range. Then hit Save and continue. Next, the project setup wizard creates a firewall and geofilter named after the project. The firewall controls network traffic using source and destination addresses, protocols, and ports. The geofilter adds location-based controls, allowing or blocking traffic based on country or IP groups. To allow access from your current location, first find your public IPv4 address. Expand the View section and select Who Am I? And copy the address shown there. So let's start by making a firewall. Add an inbound allow rule. Use your public IPv4 address as the source, and for the destination, we're going to set this to the private IP of the first instance that we'll create. So in this case, 10.0.0.2. We'll select TCP as the protocol and port 22 for SSH, port 80 and 443 for HTTPS. Only open the ports your workload actually needs. In the Geofilter section, we're going to allow Irish IPv4 and IPv6 addresses. This gives you an additional layer of control over who can reach your resources. You'll find more information in a link in the video description. Next, we're going to add an SSH key. Select Add SSH key, and you can paste in an existing public key or generate one directly. If you already have an SSH key on your computer, you can view it running the following command. If the app generates a private key for you, download it or copy it immediately and store it securely. The private key is only displayed once. Moving on to the compute step, let's create an LXD instance. In metadata, give the instance a name and then choose an SSH key. You can also configure login user data if needed, and in the advanced section we can also configure Cloud Init. On the Specs tab, select the operating system image that you want to use, and then select the amount of CPU and RAM and storage your instance needs. Next, we're going to add an interface and choose the private IP address, in this case 10.0.0.2. We're going to select it as the gateway and we're going to enable NAT. This will give the instance a public IP address. After the compute step, Boole gives you the option to add secondary storage or site-to-site VPN. Only add these if your project needs them. Otherwise, select Skip, and you can always manage or add these resources later. After selecting Finish, wait a few seconds for the project overview to load. This page provides a cost estimate of your project and also gives you full overview of every resource in your project. You can expand each section to see more details about each. For Windows workloads, you can create a HyperV virtual machine. On metadata, enter a descriptive name, review the DNS settings, and enter the email address that you want the credentials to be sent to. On specs, select the Windows image, CPU, and RAM and storage required. On the Interfaces tab, add an interface, select the private IPv4 address that you want to use, enable NAT and set this interface as the gateway. Select Save and then wait for the build process to complete. You'll then receive an email that looks something like this, which will contain your login credentials. We'll need to make changes to our project firewall to allow RDP. We're going to open Manage, Network, and then Firewalls, and select the project that we were just making. Select the project, and then edit its firewall. We're going to add an inbound rule to allow our public IP as the source, and the VM's private address as the destination. But in this case, we're going to add port 3389 for remote desktop. There are a few ways to connect to your HyperV instance. For this demonstration, I'm going to use the Windows app. I'm going to select the plus button and then add PC. Enter the VM's public IP address as the PC name. Choose ask when required for credentials or set up your credentials like so. Give the connection a name and select add. Open the saved PC and either enter your credentials or use the ones that you've already configured. This will then launch your Windows VM. Next, we're going to look at attaching a GPU to an LXD instance. Click Manage, then Compute, and then select GPUs. Then select your project. From there, create GPU, select the instance you want to attach it to, and select the type of GPU you want to attach. Next, let's create a snapshot of our VM. A snapshot is a quick point-in-time checkpoint for an LXD instance. It's useful before making any risky changes. Expand Manage, then Compute, and select Snapshots. Select Manage beside your project, and under Snapshot LXD, select Create Snapshot LXD. Enter a meaningful name and choose the instance that you want to take a snapshot of, then select Save. When it's ready, the state will change to running. You can then use the revert button when you intend to discard any changes made since that last snapshot was created. Finally, let's create a backup. A backup is a separate copy of your instance for recovery from data loss or infrastructure failure. Expand Manage, then Compute, and then select Backups. Select Manage beside the project, and then select Create Backup LXD. Enter a descriptive name, choose the instance that you want to back up, and then select Save. Once processing is complete, the backup will appear in the project's backup section. I hope you found this tutorial useful in creating your first CloudCIX project. If you need any more help, we have full documentation available at docs.cloudcix.com, or you can contact support@cloudcix.com.